Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Pittsburgh Current Podcast, coming to you live from beautiful Beachview Business District from Sorgatron Media. I'm Pittsburgh Current editor and publisher Charlie Deach. I am ill today. We have a ongoing plague ripping through the office, and since there's only like 5 or 6 of us in there at one time, it rips through pretty quickly. So bear with me, but I'm excited about today's show because we have from the ScareHouse, we have Simmons and Katie Dudas, and they've had we got a new look for ScareHouse this year, new location, new setup, but also that all comes with new problems.
Correct. Yes.
So whoever would like, so tell us a little bit about what precipitated the move from Etna to the Strip District.
We had largely outgrown the building in Etna actually a couple years ago. It's still there. It's a very cool old building. We all love that building. It was 100 plus years old, crazy haunted, really fun. But ScareHouse continued to get more and more acclaim and more popular than we could have ever imagined. So, Etna is not a huge thriving town. And then with some of the development that did happen, we started losing our parking. So there were such burdens to experience ScareHouse. You had to park at the zoo. There were shuttle buses, and
Wow.
We just started looking ahead into the future and realizing eventually this is going to start hitting a pretty hard wall of we can't facilitate the parking, the amount of people that we're having now. Can't expand, and we tried to work with the township as best we could, but it just reached a point of like, we got to find a new location.
Yeah.
And because ScareHouse is known for being more than a little ambitious, we really had this idea that, well, let's just take down this place that's been here for 12 years and occupies 3 floors of a massive building,
Right.
pack it up, move to a new building, set it up. It became very obvious very quickly that was crazy. And so it took us 6 months just to do that first phase.
Yeah.
Just to tear everything down, pack it up,
Wow.
move it out. So, ScareHouse is on hiatus. It will return next year. But, we still like scaring people. We
Sure.
still like having some fun.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. So we found this space in the Strip District right there on Penn Avenue. And I've been calling it, first of all, it's our new headquarters. Like, we actually have an office. There's a whole team of ScareHouse people now that's where we can plan all our world domination plans.
Right.
So that's great. But then within that same space, we are getting into the Scream District concept, which I bet Katie would love to talk about.
I feel like I'm on recording at this point with Scream
Exactly.
District. So Scream District, essentially it houses our basement attraction, which is our 18 over immersive horror experience. And then also this new escape room, Stalked by a Killer, which is super cool. It's got the jump scares of a haunted house, but there's no actors inside, but things happen, you get startled, you laugh, you have fun. So
Right.
it's definitely a cool, fun concept. Definitely in our wheelhouse. Definitely very scarehousey. And I like that word, scarehousey. We zombify
Scarehousey.
things in
Scarehousey.
scarehousey. We
In
make up a lot of
ScareHousey
terms.
fashion.
Yes.
So that's so it's super cool. It's definitely, and I think a lot of what the move too was like the fans were asking for more, and we
Right.
just couldn't give them more in
Yeah.
that location. As much as we wanted to, we'd packed as much stuff as we could, and they were just like, "We want more." And we're like, "Oh, we're trying."
And do you guys have the location for next year yet, or is that still something
That
in
is
the
on a
planning
need
stages?
to know basis.
Oh.
I will say, we are trying. I think ScareHouse is also known for trying some new and radical concepts. So part of what we are doing this year, and we've with the basement, with the escape room, with some of the other things, is really sort of going back and blowing stuff up a bit. And I think we're looking at this as an opportunity to really shake things up and try some radical new things within ScareHouse, within haunted houses. So part of the reason why we're being a little cryptic, of course, is on a blunt level, we just want everyone to focus on what we're doing this year.
Right.
But
Sure.
a lot of it is some of the stuff we're trying, we want to make sure we can actually pull it all off
Yeah.
before we start promoting it.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Look at us using our brains.
Yes. Yeah.
12 years in, you're finally thinking, huh?
Exactly.
That's what. Yeah. My issue. I still haven't started. So let's talk a little bit about Scream District, the escape room. So what do you? I mean, and obviously we don't want to give away any of the big surprises, but how do you approach an escape room in terms of still trying to give at least some level of the scares and the excitement that folks are used to?
Well, Katie and I talked a lot about this with the design team, that we wanted this to be open to a wider audience.
Yeah.
You know, both ScareHouse and Basement are definitely a little bit more hardcore,
Yeah.
a little bit more for your people who really like to be scared. And Katie was the one who was really pushing for, we kind of want this to be a little bit more, not only PG, but we want kids to come out and play this. And a lot of that was a back and forth on, okay, how the difference between being ew and gross and, oh, that's really graphic and disturbing, and trying to have, like, without giving away anything, there are a lot of moments in it that they're a little bit more intense than, say, Goosebumps, but it's more, if the little scares happen and you're a little grossed out or you laugh, as opposed to, we're not trying to get into Saw or Hostel or some of this more R-rated stuff.
And it's really weird, like, especially in our world with, like, the conversations we have. It's like,
Yes.
wait, if it looks a little more, if the body's not so fresh and, and like there's a difference. Like, it's interesting. You start noticing, like, this is not as scary to people. Like, older blood, not as scary. Fresh blood, a little more scary. Frostbitten look, not as scary. But, like, this decapitated, trying to find that line.
That's awesome, because we all, like, everybody does what they do. Everybody has a job. And I always think, like, couldn't imagine, like, somebody who maybe works at a bank. Imagine, like, sitting in on, our meetings and thinking, what are they talking about? But I can't imagine, like, because, we talk about it very seriously. And I imagine that's what goes on. You guys are, it's a very it's serious business for you guys. And I think that's really cool that you guys take it that serious when you're planning this out.
Well, and everything is interconnected. Everything that has originated from ScareHouse has originated from the core team. And we all wear many, many, many hats. So design, marketing, branding, they're all sitting at the same table.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that has helped us so we identify that we want to do a thrilling escape room, and we like the idea of it being like trapped in a room with a killer, stalked by a killer. It took us forever to come up with the name.
Sure.
And then it becomes, okay, as we're doing the design, the marketing is sort of in part with that. So we're able to say, okay, we don't want this to be too gross. So, it's a rare opportunity where the marketing person is actually giving feedback to the designer on exactly, like you're saying, the level of gore, the level of gross, the level of everything. But that's why it's able to be such sort of a uniform expression when we create these projects.
Yeah, I just think of, like, different severed heads on the table and just judging them all by that's a little too much, spine coming out of there.
Yeah. Many a time it was like, all right, let's knock that one down a little bit. Can
we doll this a little bit?
Yeah.
So the original plan was to open the attractions this past weekend. Is that correct?
Well, actually, the original plan was late September. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we're not open yet.
Yeah, so let's go through that a little bit. You guys applied for a permit in early August. Is that correct? Does that sound right?
Yes, and I want to be clear, because I've said this a couple times. Like, I don't think there's no maliciousness here. There are no bad guys in any of this. But at the risk of sounding a little bit like Jimmy Stewart, we are a small seasonal business in a big city with a lot of major development happening.
Yep.
The whole process has recently been updated. This is my air quote.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, there's just a lot of things that in other communities would happen faster. And from what I've been told, even in the city of Pittsburgh used to happen faster.
Yeah.
So when we applied for our building permit in early August, and by the way, when I say building permit, this has nothing to do with the actual escape room or the attractions.
Yeah.
This was, although that is related to it, but the primary things we're dealing with are upgrades to the actual building, adding some new bathrooms for the public, improving the front and back doors, the egress, so that they're better prepared for life safety, better prepared for ADA, because both these attractions are fully ADA compliant. And the issues were we submitted the permits, they asked for a review, we gave the review, we received approval, but we didn't receive approval until last Friday. Last Friday is the first time we had building permit in hand. And then once you get the building permit in hand, there's another gauntlet of inspections and permit approvals and things to go through. And so originally we were looking at late September. Then it was, we just continue to shift back and back and back. And now, there's an inspector there right now. Mm-hmm. And we have contractors who are committed to working around the clock, doing everything it can. It's just, we are definitely sort of fighting an uphill battle to get everything done and ready by hopefully Friday.
Yeah. So looking at some of the coverage of this so far, it appears as though the city got a little salty yesterday in the Post Gazette. My friend our friend Tim McNulty. So they're saying that it's not the city's fault, although when you look at August 9th to October 4th for the issuance, that seems like an extra long time to me.
And to be if I can add my little salt to this, what we found out is we actually submitted, I believe it was August 2nd.
Okay.
And I will say I've been dealing with haunted houses at a quote. Well, number one, I've been dealing with haunted houses one way or another since the mid 80s. Mm-hmm. And ScareHouse itself has existed since 99. So this is not the first rodeo. We've dealt with a lot of different communities, building inspectors, et cetera. We submitted our plans on August 2nd and we're told, well, you'll hear your first response in 30 days. What we did not realize is that, once you submit, it's not marked as received until about a week later. Then when it's received about a week later, that's when the timer starts running. Oh, and BTW, it's 30 business days, not 30 calendar days. So that's okay. Learning curve. And I think that, I think in terms of some of the saltiness I've seen in print, I think, yes, the building permit was issued Friday, and which was our, a day past our intended opening day. And, the very first thing we did after we got that building permit was, okay, when can we get this next inspector out to start the process? The original date we were granted is next week. So I'm like, well, how would that have worked exactly? So, then we have to pay extra money for expedite. We're running the gauntlet, but, I'll say this again. I don't think anybody at the city deliberately put their thumb on us or did whatever, but the process moves pretty slow. Let's at least concede that, this is a very daunting prospect for a small seasonal business when you're dealing with the city of Pittsburgh. Right.
Yeah. And it seems to me, I guess like I said, the bit of animosity that seems to come out in some of these quotes doesn't really make sense, because the goal, of course, is to the goal of the city obviously should be to have more businesses opening in the city, and this is a major attraction. You guys coming into the city from an outlying community, and so you would think that it would be the process would be a little more friendly to help you get you expedited on your. Not even expedited, but just the process should move a little faster. Maybe.
And I think one of my frustrations is that as a small business, and I understand, but when the city planners, and they've told us this, and again, even the city planners, they always responded to our emails and our calls very quickly. Like they did, everyone has been doing what they can to the best of their ability, but the issue is and I've said this a couple times to other folks. The issue is when you're dealing with permits and things in the city of Pittsburgh, there is no express lane like in a grocery store. Like everything is reviewed in the order of which it is received. So, we have been going back and forth on a couple other issues, but the main issues have been installing new doors, installing new bathrooms. Well, you can track this online, which is great. And you can see that ahead of you are huge projects with big dockets that clearly take an entire day to review, and we're like, could we just skip it? Like we literally just have these two items in our hand cart. Can we just skip ahead of you guys? Nope. Okay. We'll wait.
More common sense than common sense scheduling rather than first come first serve, because it just would expedite the process for everyone, I would think.
And where the saltiness has come from, I'm not sure. I have not been in the room when those conversations have happened. So,
you're listening to the Pittsburgh Current podcast here with editor and publisher Charlie Deitch, and we are here with Scott Simmons and Katie Dudas of the ScareHouse Scream District. So talk to me a little bit about the history of the basement. That was something you guys brought in a few years ago, right?
wow, I always get this. Is it 2013?
Okay.
So we've actually been doing this
now.
for a while now. Yeah. And it all started, sorry, sitting back then. Let me tell you a story.
Gather round, children.
I know, it's like,
So-
let me tell you this time. When
In our old building, let's see if I can speed through this. In our old building, there was this great space underneath the main floor that was very creepy and very atmospheric. But I knew there was something we could do down there, but I was struggling with what because of some of the life safety issues down there. Meaning it could not handle the kind of throughput that ScareHouse does. You know, there were stairwells going down, and you know, realistically, with the occupancy, it was very limited occupancy that we could put down there. And around the same time is when I started experiencing more and more immersive experiences, like Bricolage did Strata around 2012, I think. I'd gone to New York and seen shows like Sleep No More. And I really got excited about this idea of doing something more intimate and doing something where it was no more than 2 people at a time. And instead of the kind of high throughput haunted attraction experience where you're walking through and the actors just jump out, scare you, and you keep moving, what if we could do a series of vignettes, a series of scenes in which it's just you and a friend in a room with one character who's actually interacting, talking, being creepy. Then the added level was there were more haunts there was one in New York. Some of the theme parks, ironically, were getting into this. Busch Gardens in Tampa was starting to experiment with this idea of doing something a little bit more intense or quote unquote extreme.
Right.
So we sort of, like a salad bar, picked from all these different places. And I really started thinking about, well, what if we do not only this intimate, immersive kind of experience where it's no more than 2 people at a time, and it's kind of slow and more engaging. Let's also make it R-rated. Let's also change the rules a little bit. And that first year was really kind of an experiment, and it was very popular very quickly. And you know, it's been a fascinating process. It is wild for me to think that we've been doing it for so long now.
Right.
And it's, you know, it's got its own, as Katie can tell you, it's got its own fan base. It's got its own audience. You know, a lot of times we'll have people try both and they sort of gravitate towards, you know, I've seen people who like ScareHouse and love Basement. People who love Basement like ScareHouse, but it's usually like, it's sort of a Coke Pepsi thing. Like you got one. But yeah, it's been an interesting challenge because it's not, yes, it is a quote unquote extreme haunted house.
Yeah.
And I know there are videos online of some of these haunted houses where they're doing really just terrible, awful things to people.
like torture porn.
Like torture porn.
Wow.
And I always stress that the basement is still fun. You know, it's just a little bit, it's the atomic hot wing. It's a little bit more, you know, there is electricity. It's more participatory than just walking through. You know, if you walk through a traditional haunted house and you see a coffin, your first thought is, oh, I bet something's coming out of that coffin. Mm-hmm. You go through basement, you see a coffin, you go, oh no, I'm going in there. Yeah.
And I get a lot of times, you know, doing appearances like we're at Steel City Con, we're a lot of places, and people are like, what's this basement about? And like, what's the difference? And I think one of the best ways to describe it is like, you go through a normal haunted house and you're like, I don't like this scene. I'm going to walk really fast out of this scene.
Right.
When you're in the basement, you are in that scene for like 3 minutes with this actor doing whatever's happening in the scene. And you don't leave till that actor is done with you in that scene. And then depending on how I act with this actor, they're reacting to me. These are just, our actors are brilliant. They're so good at just being able to respond. Like you can throw pretty much anything at them and they're going to have a response and maintain their characters. And it's so cool. Yeah. And it's such a like higher level of, I don't want to be like acting, but acting. Like,
yes.
It really, it's like you're forced to sort of confront those things that are making you uncomfortable. And I think that, you know, people need to do that anyway. So that's kind of an interesting way to.
And we do have a safety word. We do have a thing, and it's, and we stress that because I know there are other haunted houses that have the safety word, and they treat it like fraternity hazing. Frankly, like, come on, say it. You know, we're going to make you say it. We use it as a true safety word. We're just saying, like, we want you to finish. We want you to do this. If at any point gets too extreme, you can say the safety word. We're not going to embarrass you. We're not going to make a big thing out of it. But this is here as a safety valve. You know, we're going to push you past your boundaries a little bit. And my favorite stories of customers going to the basement are the ones who didn't think they could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or we had one last year who said the safety word, money. Very early in the process, she came out and our manager really encouraged her, said, no, go in, try it again. You know, I'm not going to charge you again. Try it again. You know what?
Yeah.
I'll go in with you. I'll hold your hand. Like, we were her coach. And
Yeah.
when she came out, you could see it was like that
Triumphant.
Rocky moment.
Yeah.
She was like, I did it. And that's what I love. I
Yeah.
want people to face these things and have fun, but also realize that the power to do this thing is in them. They
Yeah.
can face all this stuff.
Is it several different interactive scenes?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. And it's gotten very popular. I mean, you guys usually it sells out, right? It sells out in advance.
Yeah,
a lot of times.
it sells out in advance, and you know, admittedly, part of that is because, unlike a traditional haunted house, there are only so many time slots available. You know, we're doing a group of 2 every 3 minutes. You start doing that math, and then, you know, unlike a traditional haunted house, it's very intense. I mean, it's actors in a haunted house always are being very aggressive and very intense, but you can't. It's not like I can extend the basement for hours and hours on end, because these actors are in that moment and they're in that scene. And,
Right.
you know, after 4 or 5 hours, they're pretty much
I would think
mud. So.
Oh, I think this year one of my favorite things is one of our actresses is a demon,
Yeah.
and listening to her warm up
Oh,
and
yeah.
become this character is horrifying
That's
to
awesome.
hear, because she's
Yeah.
warming up her vocals and she's doing these exercises, and she becomes this, and this
Yeah.
is her
Wow.
voice changes, everything changes, her demeanor, the way she holds herself, and you could tell when she's in that headspace. It's really cool to see.
Yeah.
Where do you typically find? I mean, obviously, it's an acting job, so there are obviously actors out there who come and audition and so forth. But I would think it also would take kind of a special kind of performer to come in and do something like this. What do you look for in a performer?
Well, one thing I can tell you we do not look for are the people that come in and like, I did this horrifying thing, and I do this law-breaking, horrifying
Right.
thing,
Yeah.
and I should be in the basement. And it's like, that's no.
Yeah.
Red
Yeah.
flag, red flag.
Yeah.
Scott will literally drive red flags.
Yeah, I have drawn red flags on people's applications before.
Yeah.
It's finding the people who can separate and are looking for this as a challenge, as an actor, as an experience, as opposed to, I'm going to bend people to my will.
Right.
I'm going to break, like, okay, you know, and
Yeah.
it's with primary ScareHouse too, we do that same thing. Like, we want people to understand that this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be a release, you know, for a large portion of our cast, including we do get a lot of actors who come from improv backgrounds.
Sure.
You know, some of them have, at this point, decades of acting experience. But we also get some actors that this is the only acting experience they do all year. You know,
Yeah.
they're working in the medical field, or they're working in an office all day, and they're thinking, I get to scream at people tonight. I get to, you know, have this experience. Those are the folks we're looking for, as opposed to, as Katie said, we've had some people who, on their interview, they delight on how they made somebody cry, or how they bent them to their will. I'm like, you're a bully.
No,
I don't want you in my life.
This would strike me too as something that, and we get this sometimes because we're an all weekly. We get a lot of people when we put out for a job. People say, "Oh, you know what? I always wanted to try to write."
Oh,
Like, this is not, you know. So I'm sure you get people who
Yes.
think, "I've always wanted to try and I always wanted to do this." They think that
Yeah.
anybody can step in and do this stuff. It's sort of
Yeah. I've always wanted to try to be a brain surgeon.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
always,
exactly.
yeah.
Nobody would
yeah.
walk into UPMC and say, "Hey, I'd like to do a lung transplant today."
Yeah. Yeah.
But so what are the tentative plans for opening right now? What are the plans for getting?
Well, I mean, it's, again, our stuff is essentially ready to go.
Yeah.
You know, we have been, what has benefited us is because the scale of these experiences are a bit smaller, and our audience, especially for the basement, and I think I'm finding for escape rooms, they understand that they have to get their tickets early in advance,
Yeah.
and they have to buy them online. So we've been very, very lucky that with both basement and escape room, our audience has sort of been trained that, oh, we have to buy tickets in advance, and we know we have to do it online. So that's been a little bit easier for us to navigate the continual refunding and exchanging and rescheduling. And so far, and I'm so grateful for this, the fans have completely understood our situation, and they're excited to experience this, even if it means it might be in November at this point, as
Right.
we have to extend our run. If we were I can't say if we were doing the larger ScareHouse experience, which had a much larger amount of people, this would be really rough.
Yeah.
But so far, so I mean, the hope is we have said we would very much like to open Friday. And I know every time I say this, I get more salt, but it's not up to us. Like
right.
we have contractors ready to go. We have all this stuff, we know it. We just need a few days of work to finish all the upgrades to the building. But the reality is we can't do that until we get all the permits and
right.
the inspections and things. And, that is happening this week. We're doing everything we can. So, as soon as we're hoping for Friday, but we have no real power over the Friday next week.
Friday next week.
Yeah.
If you guys wanted to do like sort of a terrifying, you could have like one of your scenes could be the permit process in the city of Pittsburgh.
Right.
I told you October 13th.
Right.
Yeah, it would be great.
I think one of the cool things about having such a small team that our core team is, we have direct contact with the customers. We're the ones calling and emailing and getting, social media. They're talking to us.
Yeah.
And then we're able to get that message. We're like, this is what we're seeing. And then we're able to get the message out to our customers. And it's so cool that like that it's just such a small, like there's no like, okay, this is a thing we're seeing. I got to let somebody else know. Okay, well, maybe we should do, it's instant. Like, okay, customers are saying this. This is how we're going to adjust. This is how we're going to make sure that they know this message is getting out and letting them know what's going on. And like Scott said, they've been wonderful. Like we've a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of like, oh man, please don't be mad at us. We love you guys.
So this is obviously a Halloween attraction, and people are like, "Oh, it's ready for it." But when do you start? I mean, obviously this year's a little different. Is it a year-round process or most of a year-round process?
Yeah, I mean, even this year we moved into the space in mid-June. So, to be clear, before we even moved in mid-June, we'd already identified the need for bathrooms. Like, nothing that the city is asking for is unreasonable, and most of it is not entirely unexpected. What was unexpected was the amount of time it would take to say, hey, can we do a thing? How about this? Oh, sure. Okay, did that just take 12 weeks? Because I think that just took 12 weeks.
Right.
But, in this case, I believe our first conversations with the designer of the escape room were in February, I believe, February. And then the actual design for basement was definitely in the springtime.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the exact time, but every year what happens is, in this case with the basement, we will, like last year we did Christmas in the basement. And as soon as that wrapped, we had,
that would be fun.
We had surveys, we had feedback, we talked among our core team, we saw what the customers were telling us. And then that's when we start thinking and, not really locking down hardcore pre-production, but we're thinking about it all year. And this year was around springtime. We started really designing and plotting and scheming we're obviously fairly deep into our top secret, super cool plans for ScareHouse 2020 right now.
Right.
Yeah.
In quote unquote normal world, we're starting in January.
Wow.
Yeah.
With planning.
Yeah.
And it's January, like soft plans, and then by March we're building. That's like quote unquote normal world is like.
At what point do you start hiring performers?
Usually in the summer.
In the summer?
Yeah, July, sometimes August. It just kind of depends on where we're at with things and what we can get out. And it's because you have to do it early because there are a lot of really great haunted attractions in Pittsburgh. We're super lucky because what's really cool about having other cool haunted attractions is you go to one, you're like, oh man, I had so much fun. I want to go to another one. And so you luck out and we try to get the message out early for actors because we want to get the great actors and we're all kind of looking for the great actors. So usually summertime, July, I think.
Yeah.
What I meant to ask this earlier when we were talking about the escape room. What size groups can participate in that?
Up to 8.
Up to 8?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can do, like, if it's just you and a friend, you could do you and a friend, but it's up to 8 people can go into the escape room at one time.
And it is not an 80s themed escape room, but it has that 80s aesthetic. It definitely feels like a slasher movie from the 80s to me, like the small group of 8. And then bit by bit, without giving away any spoilers, I love that there are moments where somebody in your group, or there are at least 3 or 4 moments in the experience where somebody in the group has to do something they probably don't want to do. And then it becomes not even so much solving the puzzle, but going, well, you should do it. Well, I did the last one. I did this. And, I would love, there's certain things I would love to be able to do something like quick run for help or do, but it's that exact experience. And there's one moment, which is anybody who grew up like I did watching the slasher movies where, things start falling out of the closets and stuff, like that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. And again, it's age appropriate for, what would you say?
We say it's like a PG-13 experience.
Okay,
we suggest 12 and up.
Yeah.
Because you just,
Right, yeah. It's so when you guys first started ScareHouse, was it something, did you think it would grow into the as popular as it has?
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, we so ScareHouse is still a family business. It's still owned by my dad and myself. And started all the way back in 99. And, I always thought, well, it would be great if this was my full-time job, which now it is, but never could have conceived of having multiple full-time employees. There's a ScareHouse healthcare plan. That was a weird moment.
we have dental and healthcare.
We do, yeah. But yeah, and never could have conceived that, it would get to such a thing where not only the big crowds that come out, but so many weird moments of, like, a friend of mine has played various characters, and one year we had a shirt made with her character on it. And I remember just walking down the street in the middle of the summer, and somebody I didn't even know is wearing a ScareHouse t-shirt. I'm like, that's my friend's face on you. How, this is so strange. And, I never stopped being grateful for it, but it never stops being so completely surreal.
Yeah.
And with all this nonsense going on with the city, that has been a very trippy moment for me. Number one, navigating the saltiness, because I'm not somebody who seeks out conflict. But then on top of that, going, are we known is the mayor's office have an opinion about this weird little spooky thing that we're doing? Like, oh, that's heavy. That's big. So.
Yeah. It's something certainly that everybody, whether you've gone or not, it's something that everybody knows about. I mean, I think most people, at least when they think about, Pittsburgh, ScareHouse is one of the attractions that people think of.
The one of the strangest moments for me was a few years ago. Was at a convention, because yes, there is an actual trade show for the haunted attraction industry, and it's become an international industry. And we were in line for an event and just making small talk, and there was a group behind us from Paris. And talking to, like, what's that like running a haunted attraction in Paris? And had talked to them, got all the information, and they said, well, where are you from? And I said, well, I run ScareHouse in Pittsburgh. And I went, oh yeah, ScareHouse. I'm like, you're in Paris. Wow. But they had heard of ScareHouse in Pittsburgh, and that was trippy.
So what are the do you have plans for anything beyond, I mean, obviously this has been quite an experience trying to get this up and running, but do you have plans for anything, like you did Christmas in the Basement before? You have any plans for anything like that later on this year?
Maybe. Yeah. Especially now that, our opening in October has been delayed so much. We're going to find out if people like to get scared in November.
Yeah.
And hopefully they do. That's a marketing challenge that Katie is really enthused and excited about. But yeah, we are planning to do Christmas in the Basement again this year. You heard it here first.
Wow.
And that we had planned to have a couple weeks off between regular Basement and Christmas Basement. That might not be the case this year.
It might be a weekend or 2 days.
It might be, yeah.
2 days, yeah.
Part of the interactive experience might be, here, hang these Christmas decorations. It's scary. But
oh my gosh, with like an overbearing parent going, "You're not hanging that right," or grandparent like yelling at you.
Which could be one of the scares, like your grandmother yelling you to hang the stocking string.
Right.
Yes.
I talked to somebody the other day about this because we started talking about, well, what does it mean to do an adult haunted house? And I've always struggled with that too, because as soon as they say adult or R-rated haunted house, like, oh, does that mean there's like nudity and stuff? Like, no. But it's a lot of it is subject matter. And we have talked about, could we do like office cubicle day? Could we do like awkward elevator conversation?
Yeah.
Could we do like Thanksgiving dinner with that one uncle that's got strong opinions? Like, could we pull that off? Like, no, too much, too real.
That would be too much to try and get in. But I would think that would almost be, because for someone like me who's not a huge haunted house person, although my nephew likes them, so we've done them from time to time. But I love Christmas. Like I would maybe do that, but then I feel like that's probably more terrifying, because that's something that everybody associates with Halloween. You're supposed to get scared. Mm-hmm. Christmas, everything's supposed to be, everything is, gingerbread and gumdrops. But it would be kind of cool to go into a kind of effed up Christmas, which a lot of us have anyway. But
and I would love to get back to that tradition that dates back to Dickens in London of the ghost stories. Christmas ghost stories is a big part of the thing. Like it's kind of creepy. It's, there's a lot of symbolism in winter of death and things dying around. And of course that's a period where you do become sort of nostalgic and you're remembering back. And I think for me, I find everything terrifying, but I've often thought like that time of year can be a bit melancholy and can be a bit creepy. So I think that's a fun thing. But then on the other thing, and this is also my somewhat subversive side coming out, there is so much forced fun and forced participation in Christmas that I kind of delight in being a little rebellious of, no, I don't want to go to the mall. No, I don't want to go to the carol sings. I kind of want to do something a little bit dark and weird and edgy. And it's funny, years and years ago, there used to be a year-round haunted house in Orlando called Terror on Church Street. And the creative director there told me one of their busiest days of the year was Christmas.
Really?
He said it wasn't Halloween, because Halloween, people had lots of other stuff to do.
Yeah.
But he said there was a hardcore crowd that they looked forward to going to Terror on Church Street on Christmas, because they've spent, at that point, 2 full days with the relatives and their nice face. And like, I need to scream. I need to see a guy with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
I need to get this out of my system.
That's
like,
awesome.
Those are my weird people. I get you. I got you. Let's do something scary.
We've been talking to, this is Pittsburgh Current Podcast, by the way. We've been talking to Scott Simmons and Katie Dudas of the ScareHouse Scream District. Anything in closing you guys want to tell the folks about your upcoming, eventually?
I'm going to jump in real quick.
Yeah.
We want to thank the Strip District businesses and community down there. Holy cow, have they been supportive.
It's a good neighborhood
Oh, gosh.
We've met so many people. All of them have been very enthusiastic. I've met even more people the last couple of days who are, hey man, I heard what's happening to you. I'm sorry. It's that is a thing. I mean, to be clear, this is not just a pop-up thing. Like we're going to be in that building in the Strip District for years, experimenting, doing a lot of fun, weird stuff. Yeah. So as Katie said, like the Strip District, even the city has been very encouraging, and they want us there. We just need to run this gauntlet of the permits and inspections. But and it's a little self-serving, but I would encourage everyone to buy tickets, because it's, even though, especially because our opening continues to get delayed, there are only so many spaces available, and they will still sell out. And of course, if we have to delay again, we will do exchanges, do everything else. But very much appreciate anybody who goes to scarehouse.com or screamdistrict.com and buy some tickets and has some fun.
And where can they find you on the socials?
Wow, we are all over the place now. Yeah. You can find ScareHouse on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Basement is now Basement PGH on Instagram, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. My brain will get there eventually. Yeah. So depending on what you're into, you can find it.
And the ScareHouse on YouTube, which has quietly become a huge thing. Like almost 300 videos on there. Wow! And that is fun for me. We've been shooting HD video since 2007. Wow! So it's really fun. You can go back and see old ScareHouse videos, old behind the scenes stuff. You can see Katie when she was but a child.
Oh gosh, yeah, you can see me. I started out as just a wee zombie.
Yeah.
How long have you been there?
Oh gosh, I think this is my 9th year.
Okay.
Or maybe going into my 10th. I don't know. But I started out I was just a zombie. I have no acting experience. And
were you just interested in haunted attractions, or what was your?
No. No. It took me years to even go through ScareHouse.
Really?
Oh gosh, I'm a chicken. But no, it was a chance meeting at Anthrocon with Scott and I had mutual friends, and they're like, we're shooting a video for this new zombie haunt. Do you want to come down? I'm like, sure, why not? And I'm like, this is fun. Well, we're hiring actors. Okay. And then I became an actor, then a haunt manager, and
So you know you're
worked
working.
my way up.
Good job. That's awesome. Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. And check out, get your reservations early for the ScareHouse because it will sell out. And maybe I think the escape room is a nice in for people who've never maybe done your attraction before. So I might venture out there myself. I'm a bit of a chicken.
Yeah,
You'll be fine.
We've heard multiple. Oh, could we be swearing this whole time?
Oh yeah, we really could
Oh,
have.
you gotta tell us in advance.
We have a soft R here, not a hard R, but a soft R.
Probably better that I didn't know that when I was talking about our permit issue.
Yeah, I actually was very proud of you for keeping.
No, we've had many people say I can't do the basement, but I'll do the escape room.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we'll.
Oh, then they go, I did the escape room. Let me try this basement thing.
Yeah.
It happens.
It's the entry drug.
Yes.
Just a taste. That's all you need to get hooked. Just like on the Pittsburgh Current podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for talking. And we will see you next week. New issue of the Pittsburgh Current this Tuesday. PittsburghCurrent.com.
A better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. A better alternative.